All right, so you're thinking about jumping into the world of software development.
That's awesome. We're going to be diving into a blog post today from Algo Academy.
It's all about advice.
Yeah, advice from developers who've been around the block a few times.
They're sharing what they wish they'd known when they were first starting out. Kind of like a cheat sheet.
Yeah, think of it as a cheat sheet or,
A roadmap.
yeah, a roadmap to help you navigate
Avoid those potholes.
Yeah, all those common pitfalls that new devs often fall into.
Exactly. And,
It's funny.
there are some things you just don't learn in college.
Yeah,
Like you learn all the theory.
you ace those coding assignments.
You think you're ready to take on the world.
And then, bam!
You hit a wall.
Real world's a whole different ballgame.
Exactly. And this deep dive is going to give you a glimpse into those unspoken rules of the game.
Yeah.
Like, I remember this anecdote from the blog post
Oh, yeah.
about Sarah,
Okay.
this comp sci grad.
Mm-hmm.
Thought she was totally prepared,
Uh-huh.
but then she hit a wall.
Oof. Yeah.
Turns out, just knowing the technical stuff,
Right.
that's only one piece of the puzzle.
Yes, Sarah's story.
So relatable.
Ah, it's so relatable. Like,
You spend years honing these technical skills,
Right.
and then there's this whole other side
yeah.
of soft skills.
Industry knowledge.
All that
Oops.
stuff that can really make or break your success.
Yeah. It's like thinking you've mastered baking just by reading recipes,
Uh-huh.
but then realizing you have no idea how to actually use an oven, right?
That's perfect. So let's unpack this treasure trove of advice, starting with the technical stuff.
All right, let's go.
Right, the foundation.
Foundation.
The blog emphasizes the importance of really mastering those fundamental concepts.
Yeah. Okay, so fundamentals are important.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, why do experienced devs keep coming back to these?
You mean like data structures and algorithms?
Exactly. It seems like everyone's always chasing the newest framework or the newest language.
Right, but see, those trendy technologies, they come and go.
Oh, but data structures and algorithms,
Yeah.
that's timeless knowledge.
I see.
Like, have you ever worked with a hash table?
Oh, of course.
Essential for so many tasks, right?
Absolutely.
Imagine you're building a search engine.
Okay.
Knowing how to use a hash table can make your search functionality lightning fast.
Wow.
It's like having a super organized filing system
Right.
where you can instantly retrieve any piece of information you need.
I'm starting to see why those fundamentals are so crucial.
Right.
It's like mastering the building blocks that let you build anything.
Precisely. And another fundamental skill that often gets overlooked,
Oh, tell me more.
especially by new devs, is version control.
Okay.
Git.
Gig. Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times
Oh.
I've seen even experienced developers get tripped up by Git.
Oh, don't even get me started on my early Git mishaps.
Yeah.
I once accidentally deleted an entire project
Oh, no.
because I didn't fully understand branching. Painful but valuable lesson.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Getting comfortable with Git early on is such a superpower.
Totally.
It's not just about committing code.
Right.
It's understanding how to collaborate,
Mm-hmm.
manage different versions of your project.
Experiment without fear.
Exactly.
Having a safety net.
Yes.
Try new things.
Yeah.
Make mistakes. And easily revert back.
And when you're working on a team, which you almost certainly will be,
Right.
version control is even more critical.
Absolutely.
It allows everyone to work on the same code base without stepping on each other's toes.
Okay. Fundamentals and version control. Those are some solid pillars to start with.
Yeah.
But now comes the age-old question that every new dev grapples with.
I know what you're going to say.
Which programming language should I focus on?
The language debate, it's always a hot topic.
Always.
So many options out there.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming,
It really can.
but this blog post has some solid advice,
Oh, good.
suggesting that you focus on depth over breadth.
Especially early on in your career.
Okay, so instead of trying to learn a little bit of everything,
Right.
become an expert in one or two languages first.
Exactly. And don't get caught up in the hype of the language of the month.
Right.
Instead, think about which languages are known for their reliability, their versatility, and their strong communities.
Gotcha.
Python and JavaScript.
Those are good ones.
Excellent choices. They're widely used,
Mm-hmm.
have vast ecosystems of libraries and frameworks.
Yeah.
But the key is to understand the nuances of a language.
Okay.
Its strengths, its weaknesses, its best practices.
I see.
That's what makes you a valuable developer.
It's like becoming fluent in a spoken language.
Yes.
You can get by with a few phrases,
Uh-huh.
but if you really want to express yourself,
You got to understand the grammar,
you got to know the idioms.
the cultural context.
I love that analogy.
Right. And once you have that deep understanding of one language,
Hmm.
learning others becomes much easier
Okay.
because you start to recognize the underlying patterns and principles.
So pick a language, stick with it.
Yep.
Really dig deep.
That's it.
Got it. Now, this next piece of advice from the blog is one I wish I'd known sooner.
Ew.
They talk about the importance of reading other people's code.
Oh, yes.
Sounds kind of boring.
I know it doesn't sound glamorous.
But the blog makes a compelling case for it.
Trust me, it's one of the most powerful ways to accelerate your learning
Okay.
and improve your coding skills.
I'm listening.
Think about it this way. If you want to be a great writer,
Okay.
you read books by acclaimed authors.
You study their style,
Exactly.
their technique, their
Ah.
use of language.
The same applies to coding.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
But where do you even find good code to read?
Open source projects are a goldmine.
Oh, okay.
Platforms like GitHub,
Yeah.
like vast libraries of code.
I've heard of it.
Find projects that interest you.
Oh.
Dive into the code base.
Mm-hmm.
See how experienced developers have structured their solutions.
Interesting. So by reading their code,
Yeah,
I can learn from their experience, their best practices,
absolutely.
their problem-solving strategies.
You got it.
It's like having a silent mentor guiding me.
That's a great way to put it.
Awesome.
You'll start to pick up on those subtle nuances of coding style.
Okay.
You'll see different approaches to solving problems.
That makes sense.
And you'll even start to internalize best practices.
And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Please do.
If something confuses you, reach out to the project maintainer
Yeah.
or the community.
Most open source communities are very welcoming and helpful.
I'm definitely going to have to check out some open source projects.
Yeah.
Sounds like a fantastic way to level up my skills.
For sure. But let's be real.
Okay.
Technical skills are only half the battle.
True that.
This blog also dives into the importance of soft skills
Okay.
and mindset.
This is where things get really interesting.
Because honestly,
Yeah.
it's those often overlooked soft skills
Right.
that can differentiate a good developer from a great one.
So what are some of the key takeaways in this area?
Well, the first one is huge. Embrace continuous learning.
Okay.
The tech world moves at warp speed.
It does.
So if you're not constantly learning and adapting,
Right.
you'll get left behind.
It's like the learning never stops.
That's the mindset you need.
Okay.
A hunger for knowledge, a willingness to step outside your comfort zone,
Gotta stay curious.
and a constant drive to improve.
I like it.
And that brings us to another key soft skill,
Okay.
asking questions.
I have to admit, asking questions, especially when you're starting out,
Yeah,
it can feel intimidating.
I get it.
You don't want to seem like you don't know what you're doing.
I totally understand, but trust me,
Yeah.
asking thoughtful questions is a sign of intelligence.
Not weakness.
Exactly.
Okay.
Even the most experienced developers still ask questions.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It shows that you're engaged, you're thinking critically,
Yeah.
and that you're not afraid to admit when you don't know something.
So ask away.
Please do. Don't be afraid to pick your colleagues' brains.
Reach out to online communities.
Yes.
Even just Google it.
The resources are out there.
They are.
You just have to be willing to seek them out.
Absolutely. And speaking of feeling unsure,
Uh-oh.
we have to address the elephant in the room,
Oh, I know what's coming.
imposter syndrome.
Oh, the dreaded imposter syndrome.
That nagging feeling
Yeah.
that you're not good enough,
Yeah.
that you're going to be exposed as a fraud.
Ugh. It's so real.
Oh, imposter syndrome is so real,
It is.
especially early in my career.
You're definitely not alone.
Okay, good.
Incredibly common in the tech industry.
And it can be debilitating.
If you let it take over.
So how do you deal with it?
The first step is recognizing
Okay.
that it's a normal feeling,
Okay.
that almost everyone experiences it.
Even senior devs.
Even senior devs.
Wow.
Everyone starts somewhere.
Right.
Even the most senior developers were once beginners.
It's reassuring to know that even the experts have been there.
Yeah.
So acknowledge it.
Don't let it define you.
Keep pushing forward.
Keep learning, keep growing.
But are there any proactive things I can do to combat imposter syndrome?
One of the best things you can do is build a strong network.
A network.
Connect with other developers, find mentors, join online communities.
Surround yourself with supportive people
Exactly.
who understand the challenges.
And when you see that other developers have faced similar struggles,
Yeah.
it can help you feel less alone
Just alone.
and more confident in your abilities.
Like having a cheerleading squad, but for your tech career.
Exactly. And networking is not just about getting jobs.
Right.
It's about building relationships, learning from others.
Building a support system.
Exactly.
So build those skills, ask those questions,
Mm-hmm.
find your tribe,
Yes.
and don't let imposter syndrome hold you back.
You got this?
Okay, we've talked about the technical foundation,
Right.
the importance of soft skills,
Yes.
and now I'm curious about the career-building moves
Okay.
that can really help you level up. This blog post is a goldmine of information.
It is.
I'm curious about the classic mistakes
Oh, yeah.
that new devs make
Okay.
when it comes to building their careers.
Well, one of the most common pitfalls,
Oh,
and I've definitely been guilty of this myself,
good.
is focusing too much on specialization early on.
Interesting, because a lot of career advice out there
I know.
emphasizes finding your niche,
Well, right, becoming an expert
becoming an expert.
in one particular area.
So is that bad advice?
There's definitely value in that, especially later in your career.
Okay.
But when you're just starting out,
Mhm.
I think it's more important to be exposed to different areas of software development.
Oh,
Try different languages, experiment with different frameworks,
gotcha.
get a taste of both front-end and back-end development.
So it's more about exploring the landscape
Yes,
before digging deep into a specific spot.
exactly. Think of it like being a chef.
Okay.
You don't start by specializing in French cuisine.
You learn the fundamentals,
You experiment with different ingredients and techniques.
and then you gradually develop your own style.
Expertise.
I like that analogy. It's about building a strong foundation
Yes,
before adding the specialized layers.
that's it.
But how do you even know what areas you might want to specialize in
Right.
if you don't have any real-world experience?
That's where internships come in.
Okay, internship.
Internships are a fantastic way to get a taste of what it's like.
To actually work as a software
If you have
developer
a company.
in a real company?
Yeah, you get to experience the culture, the workflow, the
Ah.
challenges,
Yeah.
and you get to apply your skills to real projects.
I remember my first internship.
Oh, yeah.
It was eye-opening to see how different the development process was
How so?
in a professional setting
Yeah.
compared to what I had learned in school.
Interesting.
Like the emphasis on testing and debugging.
Ah, yes.
That was something I hadn't fully appreciated before.
testing and debugging,
Yeah.
essential skills that every developer needs to master.
And it's not just about finding and fixing bugs.
Right.
It's about understanding how to write testable code.
How to design robust systems.
That makes sense, but it also sounds a bit daunting.
It can be a bit of a learning curve,
Yeah.
but trust me, it's worth the effort.
Oh,
When you write clean, testable code,
yeah.
you're not just making life easier for yourself.
Right.
You're making life easier for your team
For future maintainers of the code?
and ultimately for the users of
Yeah.
the software.
Okay, so internships, testing, debugging.
Mm-hmm.
These are all crucial aspects of becoming a well-rounded developer.
Absolutely.
But what about showcasing your skills
Oh, yeah.
to potential employers?
That's where building a portfolio comes in.
Okay, portfolios.
Your portfolio is your chance to demonstrate your skills,
Hmm.
your creativity, and your passion for software development.
I think a lot of new devs struggle with this.
They do.
They might have the technical skills,
Right.
but they don't know how to translate that into a compelling portfolio.
One of the best ways to build a strong portfolio is to contribute to open source projects.
Open source.
It's a fantastic way to gain real-world experience, learn from experienced developers,
right.
and make your work visible to a wider audience.
Open source is great for learning, but how does it actually translate into career opportunities?
Well, when you contribute to open source projects,
Yeah.
you're not just writing code in isolation.
Right.
You're
No.
collaborating with others.
You're getting feedback.
You're building a reputation within the community.
I see.
And recruiters often look at open source contributions
Probably.
as a signal of a developer's passion, skill, and ability to work effectively in a team.
So it's like a public resume,
Yeah.
but even better because it's backed up by actual code.
And contributions that anyone can see and evaluate.
Exactly.
And it's not just about showcasing your technical skills.
It's not.
When you contribute to open source projects,
Yeah.
you're also demonstrating your communication skills,
Okay.
your problem-solving abilities.
Your willingness to be part of a community.
Exactly.
Sounds like a win-win.
I know, right?
You get to learn, you get to build your portfolio.
Yeah.
You get to connect with other developers.
It's not to love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And speaking of connections, let's talk about mentorship.
Okay.
Mentorship is something that comes up a lot in the blog,
Yeah.
but I've always wondered,
Yeah.
how do you even find a mentor?
Right.
It's not like they have a sign-up sheet.
Huh. It would be nice if it were that simple.
Right.
But finding a mentor is often about building relationships,
Okay.
networking with other developers.
So it's about being proactive,
Yeah.
putting yourself out there,
Reaching out to people whose work you admire.
building those connections.
Exactly. Go to meetups, attend conferences, join online communities,
Okay.
and don't be afraid to reach out to people and ask for advice.
You'd be surprised how many experienced developers are willing to help those just starting out.
Oh, yeah. It's about paying it forward.
Right.
They were once in your shoes.
Right.
Now they want to help others navigate the path.
It's a beautiful cycle.
It really is. And even if you don't have a formal mentor,
Mm-hmm.
connecting with other developers in online communities can provide a similar kind of support.
Like those online forums where you can ask questions,
Exactly.
get feedback.
Platforms like Stack Overflow, Reddit, even Twitter,
I use those.
they can be incredible resources for learning and connecting with other developers.
It's like having a global network of colleagues at your fingertips.
Exactly.
So to recap, build a strong portfolio.
Yep.
Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Please don't.
Seek out mentors or online communities
Yes.
where you can connect with other developers.
Absolutely. Those are some solid takeaways.
Yeah, but there's one more pitfall
Yeah.
I want to address before we move on.
Okay.
It's something that I see a lot of new developers struggle with,
Okay.
and it can really hinder their progress.
All right. I'm all ears.
It's the tendency to over-engineer solutions.
Ugh, the classic make it as complex as possible syndrome.
I've definitely fallen into that trap a few times myself.
It's tempting, I know.
You want to show off your skills,
Right.
use all the fancy frameworks,
Yeah.
build the most elaborate solution imaginable.
But the best code is often the simplest code.
Mm.
When you over-engineer a solution,
Yeah.
you make it more difficult to understand.
Difficult to maintain.
And more prone to errors.
So it's about finding that balance
Yes.
between elegance and simplicity.
Exactly. And it's a skill that takes time and practice to develop.
It does.
One of the best pieces of advice I ever received
Oh, tell me.
was to write code as if you were explaining it to someone
Okay.
who has no prior knowledge of programming.
That's a great tip.
If you can explain your code in simple terms,
Yeah.
it means you truly understand it.
It forces you to break it down.
Exactly. And it helps you avoid unnecessary complexity.
Right. Remember, the goal is to write code that's not just functional,
Right.
but also readable
Maintainable.
and scalable.
You got it.
So resist the urge to over-engineer.
Keep it simple.
Focus on writing code that's clear and easy to understand.
Exactly. Now, are you ready for the last but certainly not least pitfall?
Hit me with it. I'm ready to soak up all the wisdom I can get.
Okay, this one's a big one.
Okay, lay it on me.
It's the importance of documentation.
Documentation. Really? I mean, it's important,
Yeah.
but is it really a make or break kind of thing?
It absolutely can be.
Okay.
Think about it.
Yeah.
You've just spent weeks, maybe even months,
Yeah.
building this amazing piece of software.
You're proud of it.
You understand every nook and cranny of the code base.
I've been there.
But what happens 6 months down the line
Oh,
when you need to make changes or add new features?
you're going to have a bad time.
Or what if someone else needs to work on your code?
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
If you don't have clear documentation,
Yeah,
you're setting yourself up for a world of pain.
exactly. Good documentation is like a roadmap for your code. It helps you and others understand how the different parts of the system fit together.
Right.
It explains the design decisions that were made.
It provides a reference point for future development,
Exactly.
like leaving breadcrumbs for your future self,
I love that analogy.
guiding you through the forest of your own code.
And it's not just about helping your future self.
Okay.
It's also about making life easier for your team.
For anyone who needs to understand or work with your code.
Exactly.
So don't skimp on the documentation.
No.
Treat it as an integral part of the development process.
Yes.
Not just an afterthought.
And here's a pro tip I learned the hard way.
Okay, what's that?
Write the documentation as you're writing the code.
Oh, that's a good idea.
It's much easier to capture your thought process
Yeah.
and explain the rationale behind your decisions.
While it's fresh in your mind.
Exactly.
And remember, good documentation is concise.
Clear.
Easy to understand.
It's not about writing a novel.
No.
It's about providing the essential information in a way that's accessible and helpful.
Okay, documentation check.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
From the technical foundations
the soft skills.
to career-building strategies.
Even the common pitfalls to avoid.
It's been a whirlwind.
It's been a whirlwind of insights.
It really has.
But remember,
Yeah.
you don't have to absorb all of this at once.
Nope.
The key is to be aware of these things, to keep them in mind as you navigate your software development journey.
That's it.
This deep dive is like a toolbox,
A toolbox.
equipping you with the knowledge and strategies.
You need to thrive in this field.
Exactly. And like any good toolbox,
Yeah.
it's not about using every tool for every task.
That's right.
It's about choosing the right tool for the job
Knowing when to use it.
and understanding its strengths and limitations.
I like that.
So as we wrap up this episode,
Mm-hmm.
What's the one piece of advice,
Oh.
the one nugget of wisdom you want to leave our listeners with?
I would say this. Embrace the journey.
Embrace the journey.
Software development is not a destination.
Right.
It's a continuous process of learning and evolving.
I like it.
There will be challenges, there will be setbacks,
Yeah.
but there will also be moments of incredible satisfaction
When you see your code come to life.
and make a real impact on the world.
And don't forget to have fun along the way.
Absolutely. This is an amazing field to be a part of.
Full of creativity
Innovation.
and endless possibilities.
So go out there, build something amazing.
And never stop learning.
Never stop learning.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into the world of software development. Thanks for joining us.
You know what I think a lot of new devs get wrong?
Oh, what's that?
They focus too much on specialization too early on.
Interesting.
Like they want to be the expert
Okay.
in some specific tech or framework,
Right.
but I think
Yeah.
you need a broader base first.
Okay, so that's different from
Yes.
the find your niche advice you hear so much.
Yeah, and look, specialization's good.
Later on, maybe?
Exactly, later on. But when you're just starting out,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's way more important to see different areas of development,
Okay.
like try different languages,
Different frameworks.
get a taste of both front end A&D, back end.
So explore before you go deep.
Exactly. It's like
Love when you do this.
it's like being a chef, right?
Okay, hit me.
You don't start out specializing in French cuisine or whatever.
You learn the basics first.
You got to learn to cook, period.
Then you experiment.
with different ingredients.
Techniques.
Exactly. Then over time,
You find your style.
you develop that expertise.
That's a great analogy.
It is. It's all about that strong foundation
Okay, so foundation first.
before you layer on the fancy stuff.
But how do you even know
Right.
what you want to specialize in?
That's the thing.
If you haven't actually worked in the field yet?
That's where internships are goldy.
Okay, internships?
They're your chance to taste the real deal,
Get your hands dirty.
literally and figuratively.
What was your first internship like?
Oh, man. Eye-opening, to say the least.
In what way?
It was just so different.
From school?
Oh, yeah. Like the focus on testing
Okay.
and debugging.
That's crucial.
Oh, it's essential. Every dev needs to master that.
And it's more than just
It is.
like fixing bugs, right?
It's way more than that.
Okay.
It's understanding how to write code that's testable,
Okay.
how to build systems that are robust.
So they're less likely to break in the first place.
Exactly. That's where the real skill comes in.
Makes sense, but sounds kind of intimidating.
It is a bit of a learning curve.
But worth it, I'm assuming.
Oh, 100% worth it. Because when your code is clean
Mm-hmm.
and testable,
Yeah.
you're not just helping yourself,
You're helping the team
future devs who work on it.
and ultimately the users.
Exactly. It all comes back to that user experience.
All right, so internships, testing, debugging.
Yep, those are key.
But then how do you show off all these skills
Right.
to potential employers?
That's where the portfolio comes in.
Okay.
It's your chance to shine.
To prove you can walk the walk.
Exactly. It's more than just listing your projects, though. It's about storytelling,
Oh, interesting.
highlighting how you solve problems.
Showcasing your style.
Exactly. This is where a lot of new devs get stuck.
They do.
They have that skills.
Yeah, but they don't know how to sell them.
Exactly. And that's where I think open source contribution comes in.
Okay, open
It's
source.
such a fantastic way.
We talked about it for learning.
Right. But it's also
For your career, too.
huge EE for your career.
Uh,
It's a real world experience. You learn from the best.
the best being...
Experienced devs out there.
And your work is public.
Anyone can see it.
So open source is great, but
Yeah.
how does it actually land you a job?
Okay, so when you're doing open source work, you're not just coding alone in your basement.
Right, you're collaborating.
You're getting feedback.
Right, real feedback.
And you're building a rep in the community.
Okay.
And let me tell you, recruiters, they love to see open source contributions.
What does it signal to them?
It shows passion,
Okay.
real skill, and that you can work on a team.
So it's like a resume.
It's like a resume on steroids.
But better, because it's all out there.
Anyone can see your code, your commits, everything.
And it's not just about the code, is it?
Nope. It's about the whole package,
Okay.
your
Can you go
communication,
loving?
being part of a community.
There's like a whole other level of soft skills proof.
Exactly. You're showing you can play nice in the sandbox.
All right, so open source. Cute.
Yes.
But what about
Something else.
mentorship?
Ah, mentorship.
It comes up a lot in this blog.
It does.
But how do you even find a mentor?
That's the million-dollar question.
Like, where's the sign-up sheet?
If only it were that easy.
Right.
It's really about those relationships.
Okay.
Networking, reaching out to people you admire.
So put yourself out there.
Exactly.
Go to events.
Conferences.
Join communities online.
And don't be afraid to just ask. Seriously, you'd be surprised how willing folks are to help.
It's about paying it forward.
Exactly. We were all new ones.
And even if you don't find, like,
Yeah.
a formal mentor,
You know, with the title and everything.
those online communities can be a huge help too.
Absolutely. It's like having a network
A safety net.
of people who get IT.
Who've been there.
Exactly. Places like Stack Overflow.
Yeah, Reddit's.
Even Twitter can be amazing.
To bounce ideas off of.
To get help, to stay up to date.
It's like having colleagues all over the world.
Exactly. So to recap, portfolio, strong one.
Open source contributions.
Mentorship or community support.
Solid advice.
But there's one more pitfall.
Okay, lay it on me.
This one's a sneaky one.
I'm ready.
It's the urge to over-engineer things.
Oh, I've been there.
We all have. It's like you want
Show
to
off.
use every fancy framework.
Take the most complex solution possible.
But here's the thing. Often the best code
Yeah.
is the simplest code,
Keep it simple, stupid.
pretty much. When you over-engineer stuff,
It gets messy.
it's hard to understand,
Hard to maintain.
and it's more likely to have bugs.
So elegance and simplicity.
That's the sweet spot.
Not easy to achieve.
It's not. It takes practice, but the best advice I ever got,
I'm listening.
write code as if you're explaining it
Okay.
to someone who knows nothing about programming.
Like my grandma.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you can make it clear to them,
Yeah.
you really understand it yourself
And you're forced to break it down.
into those small steps.
So you avoid that unnecessary complexity.
Exactly. The goal is not just code that works,
Right.
but code that's readable, maintainable, scalable.
Okay, so fight the urge
Fight it.
to over-engineer.
Keep it simple. Make it clear.
Got it. Now, is there anything else?
One last thing.
Okay, hit me with it.
It's the importance of documentation.
Documentation, really. I mean, it's important.
Yeah, but it's one of those things that new devs especially kind of gloss over.
It does feel like a chore sometimes.
It can, but
Sure.
think about it. You've spent weeks, months building this awesome software.
You're proud of it.
You know how it all works.
Inside and out.
But then 6 months later,
Yeah.
you need to change something, add a feature.
Solvable.
Or even worse, someone LSE has to work on your code.
Oof. Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster.
Without good docs, it is a disaster.
Okay, I'm starting to see your point.
Documentation's like a map.
Okay.
It shows you how the whole system fits together.
It explains why you did things a certain way.
Exactly. And it helps anyone coming in later
To understand what's going on.
without wanting to tear their hair out.
So it's like breadcrumbs for your future self.
I love that. Leading you back through the forest of your own code.
And it's not just for you, right?
No way. It's for your team, for maintainers, for anyone who touches that code base.
Here's a tip I learned the hard way.
Oh, tell
Write the docs, AS, you write the code.
That is such good advice.
That's so much easier
when it's all fresh in your mind.
to explain your thinking, the choices you made.
Exactly. And good docs, they're not novels.
Keep it concise.
Clear, easy to understand.
The essentials only.
Exactly. Make it helpful, not overwhelming.
All right, documentation, check.
Mm-hmm.
We've covered a lot today.
We have, from tech skills to soft skills.
Career tips, pitfalls to avoid.
It's been quite a journey.
A whirlwind of insights. But don't feel like you have to
wait.
master all this at once.
No way, it's a process.
This deep dives like a toolbox,
Ooh, I like that.
giving you the tools you need.
To thrive as a developer.
Exactly. And like any toolbox,
Yeah.
you don't use every tool every time.
Right tool for the right job.
Knowing when and how to use each one.
That's the key.
So, as we wrap up,
Mhm.
what's the one piece of advice you'd leave our listeners with?
I'd say embrace the journey.
Embrace the journey.
Software development, it's not a finish line you cross.
It's ongoing.
It's constant learning, growing, evolving.
There'll be tough times, for
Yeah,
sure.
setbacks, challenges, you name it.
But also,
Yeah.
seeing your code make a real difference.
That feeling is unbeatable.
And don't forget to have fun while you're at it.
Yes. This field is full of creativity,
Innovation.
endless possibilities,
So go build something amazing.
and never stop learning.
That's a wrap on our deep dive into the world of software development. Thanks for joining us.